Just on that thought about Karm, reminds me of the Sakhi of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. So Guru Arjan Dev Ji will sit in a diwan once, and a village head comes to Guru Arjan Dev Ji and says that I'm the village head, so there are times when I have to make decisions, there are things that I have to do that are wrong, blatantly wrong, but for the greater good I have to do them. So Guru Arjan Dev Ji said to him, he said, every month, he said, I want you to write down all of your good karma and all your bad karma, and then read them out in front of the Sangat. Now the power of the Sangat, this is also an example of, is as the preceding months happened, the village head reads his karma. The first few months, they're top heavy in terms of bad karma still are dominant against Jungya karma. There comes a tipping point when there is as many good and as many bad. And as the months go on, more good karma, fewer bad karma. What it shows is the power of Sangat as well, that when we have to tell our Guru in front of the Sangat, Asi aha karma kitte, this is what we've done, suddenly our behaviours and our thoughts change. The teaching for us there is that if we believe that our Guru is unsung, completely all the time with us, that maybe when we have those thoughts, that we just do a little check and balance, say, well, what would Guruji think if he was next to me, and I say or think these things? So in a Sakya, there's real teaching, there's real learning. And it's really important that we try and remember them and apply them to our own lives. Yeah, take it.
Okay, so what we'll do is quickly, just in 2 or 3 minutes, just recap the last body so we can make the connection from the last body to this body. So we said, Tiratanama, Jetasapama, Vanpane, Naikari. The Siddhs said to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Tirthante Shanal Kariye, 68 places of pilgrimage. If you go there, you will get power. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji said no. Tiratanama Jetasapama, Je Rabbu Changani Lagda, if it does not please Vaheguru, then there's absolutely no point doing any works of any religion where in your mind you don't have pure thoughts. So Pane, there's no point doing them. Jeti Sirtu Paivekam, and then here we are. Vin Karma Ke Milele. Guru Nanak Dev said, I look upon everybody, and I think the example you used was somebody has fallen over, broke their leg, and then they say it's your fault because you didn't help me. And Maharaj is saying everything is your karma. Don't blame anybody else. Yeah? And the example was given of Bani for Dadosana. Yeah? So that is now re-brought back to your lives. So when we read Bani, we can probably use that example when we go through that talk. Mat vich ratan jawahar manak je ek gur ki sikh sune. That where do we learn these things from? Yeah? Inside us, we said that man searches for lots of things, lots of wealth, lots of treasures. But inside us, there's Gon. Maharaj calls these Gon treasures. Gon means virtues, good virtues. So when we're trying to do good actions, when we make good karma, it's the actions that we do. Holy men, Bhakt, have good virtues, they have good Gon. We can learn from those. Yeah? So we can learn from that presentation. So we can learn from here, okay, inside us is Matavicharatan Jawahar Manak. There's rubies and gems and pearls inside us. These are gone. Chunge gone. When we said what those gone were. Tiraj, Santok, all those things that patients, good people have. Yeah? But where do we get them from? Yeah? They come from by listening to the Guru. Yeah? What we have to do is listen to the instruction of Guruji. Yeah, Guru Ek Deh Bujai. And what was that understanding that we pray for Maharaj to give us? The understanding is Sabna Jiyan Ka Ek Data. The one that gives to the whole world, the whole universe is Ek Data, Vaheguru. Yeah? And we should never forget Vaheguru. That's why we have Netanen. That's why we do Bani in the morning, in the evening, and then again at night. So we don't forget. And everywhere we go, we can recite Vaheguru, we can recite Mool Mantra or any other Bani we know. Yeah? Because So Ma Vissar Na Jai. We cannot afford to forget Vaheguru. Yeah? So, today we move on to body 7. Yeah, पहला पाठ कर लिया all together as we normally do, yeah? Ready? Je jug chare arja hor suni hoy nama kanda vich janiye na chale sab koy changa naam rakhaye ke jas kirat jagle je tas na tarna hari aapna puchke kita andar kar dosi dostre nanak je gun gun kare gun kya bunde te ha koy sujai je tas koy kare. Okay, thank you. Okay, so you remember last time we mentioned when Guru Nanak Dev Ji met with the Siddhs at Samer Parbat, and they offered Guru Nanak Dev Ji jewels, diamonds, pearls within a lake, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji was not enticed by these. And then they said to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Tirtha Ishnan Karo. Now one of the other things that the Siddhs had was long life. They lived long lives. Why? Because they had this technique where they stopped their breath, swas upar chadhaunde, okay, which meant they didn't expend their breath and their breathing, so they could live longer. Okay, so we'll come back later on how Guru Nanak Dev Ji challenged this, but they said, "Thodi arja, your age lammi ho sakdi hai if you join with us. Yeah, we are Siddhs. We have techniques to make life long." And Guru Nanak Dev Ji responded back to this, and they said what we hear in this book: Je jug chare arja hor dasuni hoy. I'm going to take it off the screen on purpose. Okay, so in here, hold that thought.
Okay. So if we're going to do a very brief overview of what this body is about, in a matter of words, really. So the essence of this body is recognizing what man most desires. Once you've recognized what man most desires, is then to understand what he most fears. Once you realize what you most fear, is to then understand what is it that I can do to become fulfilled. That fear can diminish, can disappear. And then finally, the nature in this body is that only Waheguru is the true giver in the real sense. That if we want that grace, if we want that kindness from Waheguru, it will only come from Waheguru. It won't come from any other source. So that's the essence of this body.
So I've probably given you a clue by talking about the Siddhs. So the first question there is, what does man most desire? And did you just say? So jewels? No. Even more than that. What did the Siddhs say to Guru Nanak Dev Ji? That if they joined with them, they could have thick and long life. Just how long? How long? How long would you all like to live for? Forever? Yeah? Okay, this is not just about us, but about man in general. Yeah?
Okay, I mean, the analogy that we can draw here is that in Greek mythology, they believed that there was an entity, there was a food of the gods, that once they took that food would then give them everlasting life. We would call that Amrit, ambrosia. They had their equivalent, elixir, they called it. So, the fundamental desire of man is to live long, is to live forever, in fact. And on the reverse side of it, there is something else that we... What's the other opposite spectrum of living forever, Angie? Okay. So these things we'll just go into a little bit of detail about now as to why one desires that one and why one fears the other one.
So man desires long life. So if we look at this, when we talk about this, man wants to live for as long as possible. The question is, why does man want to live forever? Why do you go to school? To learn. And when do you leave school? Yeah, no, at the end of school. Years, what year are you in now? When you get to year 11?
13 even.
Even year 13? Why do you leave school? Hanji. Yeah. And when you go to university, why do you leave university?
You become...
Hanji. Have a job. Yeah. Can you say this is never ending? Whatever you've done at school, you've achieved, you move on. Then you finish and you have a job. Then you keep going. And there was a time when people retired at 60. Now people retire at 67. And now the government will make everyone retire at 67. And by the time it comes to my retirement, it will probably be about 100. But there you go. Now by the time you retire, it'll be about 100. Yeah? So, there's this no end to fulfilling what man wants. And you stop going to school when the junior school can no longer fulfill what you need. You go to secondary school. Then secondary school gives you some other learning, and that fulfills that learning. Then you go to university and you do a course there, and you learn things there. But man wants more and more. So the question on the screen now is, which is better? A long life or a fruitful life? Who wants a long life and who wants a fruitful life? Who wants both? Yeah, that's a good compromise. Does anybody just want a long life? Okay, what does fruitful mean? What does safal mean? Hanji. Yeah, safal, yeah. हम आपका शब्द नहीं पढ़ी था सतगुर की सेवा all together सतगुर की सेवा जे को चित लाए. So, doing Satguru di Seva is safal, is fruitful, it's worthy. So in the presentation we heard, doing good actions is worthy.
So just going back to this discussion that Guru Nanak Dev Ji has with the Siddhs. The Siddhs are now offering Guru Nanak Dev Ji the secret into long life. Apne swas chura you know. Use that breathing technique that we're about to teach you and you'll live for as long as you like. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji said no. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said that a supple existence, a shorter supple existence, far outweighs an ordinary long life, where there's no virtue in that long life. Why? Because if you remember what Guru Nanak Dev Ji's, the essence of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teaching is man doesn't just become good or bad based on a label, what they are, what their background is. It's what they do and how they do it. The subtlety that you have in your life is based on what you do, and as we've just heard about some of the thoughts that lead you to then do what you do.
Okay, so this slide, when I was putting it, we're having a debate whether it's a bit too scary. Is it okay? It's not scary.
It is scary. The last bit is scary.
Is it scary? No, I didn't think it was scary. Because one of the realities of life is that we start over there with our little babies and we get down to the other end. Yeah? Nobody can escape this. Guru Nanak Dev Ji once met one of their Sikh, by Mullah Khatri, you probably heard of, yeah? And they said to him, on a piece of paper, write down what is true and what is false. And Mullah Khatri wrote down, Marna Sach, Jeena Jhoot. What does that mean? Anji.
Everyone dies, that is true, but no one lives forever.
I like that, yeah. So, Marna Sach. It is a reality of God's creation that what is created eventually perishes. It will disappear. Nothing remains forever. Who remains forever? Vaheguru and Vaheguru's Naam. Yeah? We'll hear that in a minute. Yeah? So man desires to live long. Now, to give you an example of this, man tries in every way to extend his life. We already heard that they looked for potions that they drink to make their life long. You know, the holy grail of for longevity, or even to live forever. There's even books written by ways to live forever. People try to lead healthy lifestyle, but in the end, everybody will go from this world. And Guruji make this clear, that whatever efforts you make, now even a man who's old, a person who's old, yeah, now their bones are creaky, their hair's gone white, fallen out, their eyes don't have the same power. I have to peer over the top of my glasses now to read, yeah, and, you know, it's a time I could play football about 3 days in a week. Now, I don't play football at all. You guys don't have that problem now. You do, don't you? Just pretend you do. Makes me feel better. Okay, but we all get old. So the ill person who's chronically ill, that person doesn't want to die. The old person doesn't want to die. Nobody wants to die. But the reality is that people live a limited life. To the point, now, your granddads and grandmothers are probably in this room, have been and gone out and come back. And often when they see you, what do they say to you? When they haven't seen you for a long time, what do grandparents tend to say to their grandchildren?
Well, does anybody know what a cease is?
Go on, Simmerkel. You were going to say something. Go on.
Ask how you want stuff.
And then what do they say? Today, did you give your mothers a Mother's Day and your grandmother's a Mother's Day present? Did Danny? No, I didn't.
And your grandmother or grandfather might say, "Lammi umbo did
Did you say that, did they? Did they say that? You got really nasty grandparents. Yeah. But generally, grandparents will say, when we go to Punjab, there's a lady that lives near our house, and every day when we used to go for a walk, and every day she would go, and that's what she'd say every day. And I thought, think about yourself, man, you're nearly about 100. Yeah? But there's this thing where people just say, Jeendare. And they see it as an assis. But that's not a real assis. In Bani, Guruji says, Va puta mata ki nimakna visro tumko har har sada pajo jagdi. The real assis is Nam Japana. Because the reality is we're all going to die. Not a morbid thought, just a reality. There's nothing in that other than everybody wants to live. And last week we were at a Guru Car, I think it was in Wentfield, and somebody did an ardas. And there was a child that had not long been born, and they did an ardas. And he very deliberately did not say, it's not in our hands how long somebody's umar's going to be. It's in Vaheguru's hands. What he did ask for was Changa Jivan, Gur Sikhi Jivan, Naam Dan, all those good things that help us. Lammi Jivan, to Sari Jivan, Paap Kari Jao. What's the point? All you do is add into your bad karma. You've got 2 cartfuls of bad karma. Yeah? So the question was, what's better, a long life or a fruitful life? And Maharaj says, a fruitful life is better than a long life. Yeah?
Other things that people desire is fame, fortune, reputation, a good name. Yeah, so we'll talk about that as we progress into the Pauri as well.
Okay. I'll sneak another slide in. Yeah. So, when we talked about man wants to live for long, my question now is, what does man fear?
What are those 2 things that you see, apart from the kid that's gone a bit crazy? What is it that you can see? Angie? There's a what? A lion, yeah. And on the other side there's a snake.
King Cobra.
Okay. So, fundamentally, it's not necessarily just the snake and the lion that people fear. It's the damage that they can do to you. I.e., they can end your life like that. So the fear that we have is that related to our life. That we talk about this desire to lead a long life or to live as long as we possibly can. Anything that inhibits that, anything that stops us doing that, we avoid it. Yeah, so if, when we go to India and we think there might be a snake in the field, we ain't going to walk through it, are we? That's how we avoid those situations. That's how we are going to India tomorrow, so we might be having that situation.
So, to say that the fear of death affects man as well. So, this slide here, I'll build it all up. He says life and death. And in life and death, it says that life and death are the same coin, they're just the opposite sides. Heads and tails. Heads, you're living, tails, you're dead. And the point we're making here is the greater the desire a human being has for life, the greater the fear of death. Yeah? So there's many people who have lived long lives, had lots of wealth, lots of family. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji says, altogether, Ram gayo, Ravan gayo, Jako boh parvar. Kaho Nanak, thir kach nahi, supne jo sansar. What happens to your supna at the end of when you wake up? What happens to your supna? Supna ki hunda? Tree. What happens to your supna? It ends. Guess what? Life ends. And Maharaj in Bani makes it very clear that this jug, yeah, is a supna. Yeah. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's Bani in particular, I was just listening to one in Jai Jayavanti the other, beat jahe janme akad. Every day life is progressing to the other end. And that's why I put that slide of those people.
And, you know, well, just going back to that shop, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji uses the examples he uses there very carefully. Ram and Ravan are big characters in Treta Yuga, huge characters. You know, you could say that the whole of Treta Yuga hangs off these two characters. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji says, yeah, so what? Maybe they're not so great. Guess what happened to them? They left by the nearest exit as well.
So, the first line of this body, Je Jugacharya Arja. Now, does anybody know who the oldest living person is? Anji.
Baba Buddha.
Yes, so you know about Baba Buddha, 125. Anybody older than that? Some of the Siddhs profess to be older than that. And there's other people. But Guru Nanak Dev Ji said to the Siddhs, you're offering me long life by entering your pant to become a yogi like you. And they said, okay, if somebody lives to 500 years or even 1,000, put that to one side. And they said instead, think of it like this. Je Jugachare Arja. Arja means? Todiki Arja? Age. So, age. So if now, how long did, when we talked about the jogs, remember you said, why are these guys doing such a massive introductory program to Japji Sahib? Jog kinne lamme sage. How long was each jog?
If I said to you that there's still 480,000 years of Kaljug to go, does that give you a clue?
Well, I'll since added them up. Go on.
There are literally, what, hundreds of thousands of years
Yeah.
make up a jog.
Okay. So you can do the maths. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says,
Je Jugachare Arja.
so if we're talking about Je Jugachare Arja, so take the 4 jogs, add them together, and then, what's the next part say? 4 means times 10. Kinne jog hoga?
The calculator's not big enough.
40 jog, times by all the years. Eddi lammi umar ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਜੇ ਜੁਗ ਚਾਰੇ ਆਰਜਾ ਹੋਰ ਦਸੂਣੀ ਹੋ. Okay. So the second thing we said that people desired in this slide
Was what? Not just long life, but also
what do they want here in addition? Anji? Sorry? Fame, reputation. Anything else? Wealth. All these things people want. That's why we run around day and night trying to get these things. And we talked about, some people said bad things to us. We said, Menu aitna kya? How dare they? Yeah? And then, Menu jada ko. And then you make bad karma for yourself. So, Maharaj is saying, yeah, don't get into that game of where you do bad karma. Yeah? But instead, look at this. So, man desires all of these things. Je jugachare arja. So, hor dasuni hoy. So the next line of the part okay, so the next line is so we've got the Jejuk Chare Arja, and we've multiplied by 10. In addition, let's add a bit more in. Nama Kandam vich jaaniye naal chale sab koi. Now I'm going to hide the slide, otherwise you'll just read it. What does that line mean? Hanji.
It's about fame, and even if everyone in the world from one continent
Yeah.
knew you, wouldn't really do anything.
Okay. 9 ਖੰਡ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ? ਬਾਬੇ ਤਾਰੇ 4 ਚੱਕ 9 ਖੰਡ ਪ੍ਰithvi ਸੱਚਾ ਟੋਆ. 9 ਖੰਡ is? How much is the world divided into?
9 continents.
Continents.
9 continents. So if somebody wanted this sort of reputation and fame, they have this massive age now, which we don't know what the number is, but it's jar jog times by 10. Yeah? Anji? Different lesson, geography. Kalu school Jackson. Yeah. Okay. Je jug chare arja hor this nama khandam jani. If somebody's known, well, I think, how famous are you? Do they know you at your school? Do they know that's Prahlad Singh, the man? Yeah?
The legend.
The legend. Do they know you at your next school? Did they know Jyot Singh? Yeah? No? Yeah, thumb up? Yeah.
No, he's putting me down now.
I've put it down now. Okay. So, somebody might be a legend in their school, and then somebody might be a legend in their secondary school, and somebody might be known really well in this Wolverhampton. That's the mayor of Wolverhampton. Who's the mayor of Wolverhampton? You don't know, do you? He's really famous, yeah, no. Yeah, but then somebody's really famous in the country. Who's the prime minister? Who?
Maybe for a few days.
Trishna May, I call her. Yeah. Okay. So she's on her way out. Anyway. So people are famous, and who's that nutter in charge of America? Edit out. Trump. How much do people know him? Quite a lot. Yeah.
So if you're planning to go to America, I don't think you're going to get a visa now, are you?
Majani. Anyway, so the question now is, somebody can be famous and have a massive reputation. Alexander the Great wanted to conquer the world. He conquered what was most of the known world at the time. And then death came. Yeah? So, Maharaj is saying, Je jug chare arja hor dasuni hoy nama khandam vich janiye naal chale sab koi. Not only are these people famous, but people say, you know, yes, Mr. Trump, you're the man. Yeah? Do they say that in America? Yeah? Or we call them all the chumchit. Yeah? And all these people like, okay. And all these people say, yeah, yeah, we follow you. You know, you're the man. And then somebody might have genuinely good people, and they're really famous and really well known. Yeah? And people say, yeah, asi ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਹੈ. It's the Punjabi.
So what Maharaj says, naal chale sab koi, that means that, in essence, people hang off every word they say. So somebody would make a speech, and they'll literally take word for word what they've said, and they will follow it in the spirit and also in reality as well. So these famous people, or people that have this desire such that they want people not only to follow them, but also to do what they say. Yeah. So if they say jump, they want them to jump. They would expect them to jump.
Okay, so the next line altogether? Okay. Janga Naura Paike. Now, somebody might not be, and that's like the president I mentioned, but they might be actually a good person, and they might have a great reputation and a good name. So it says such and such had a good name. Janga Naura Paike. Do you remember when we talked about Sat the Naam, that Vaheguru has Naam? Vaheguru's Naam is God's reputation, is how well and famous God is. So Janga Naura Paike. So somebody can have a Janga good name, yeah? And people sing their praises. Just Kirata, but not just one person, Jagale. In the whole of the world, their fame and their praise is high. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji is now saying to the Siddhs, yes, Jangi Kal Kiti Tusi, you can give me a long age, yeah? But I put it to you, Je jug chare arja hor dasuni hoy. Nama khanda vich janiye naal chale sab koi. Changa nav rakhaye ke jas kirat jag le. And what's the next line? Je tis nadar na anta vaat na puchke. What's your best achievement? And you might tell me. And you know what I'm going to say? Who cares? Take care. Do I care? Yeah. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, somebody can have all of that reputation, all of that repute, all of that praise, but if you do not get God's approval, God's acceptance, then it doesn't matter. So we're going to stop there and go back to death. Yeah? Because death has many types of death. Now we laughed about politicians, but they're there to be laughed at. So, types of death. Oh, we went back. So, can people tell us what types of death they are? Hanji.
So if you've, all your life, you've like listened to Gabani and haven't, just had good Gabani basically.
Yeah.
Then you'll have like a good death. People say you can't have a good death because it's death.
Yeah.
But like you won't have to go through all the unempathic journey to the Dharma
Yeah.
to think that you have like some good things by your side and make it a lot easier.
Good, yeah.
Whereas other people will have you have bad Godam will have to face that journey by themselves.
Yeah, Hanji.
Like a noble death.
A noble death, yeah. Anything else? That'll go.
Where you're alive, but then not thinking about anything good, so it's like a death of your mind and conscience.
Conscious, good one, Hanji. Hudson, do you know any deaths? No. Okay. Well, put some up, because you know when we talked about people want reputation and they want fame, and some people die certain deaths.
Okay. So the first one that we'll talk about is Arctic death. Now this refers to someone's financial ruin. Yeah, so you often hear about people that have huge amounts of money, and then the vagaries of the stock market, the following day, they have nothing. They don't even have the clothes that they had previously, that they own. In that sense, they've suffered a financial death. Yeah, in pounds and pence or dollars, whatever the unit of currency is. So that's one type of death.
Same as somatic death. So in the community or the world that you live in, your reputation becomes so ruined that you suffer these blemishes and you lose honour.
So Samaj is your local community. Yeah, so it can be your family, it could be your village, it could be your city, it could be your town. It's totally Samaj, yeah. And in this sense, a Samajic death is totally reputation. Your reputation becomes ruined. The Punjabi jab kahega agla apna muh dikhane nahi joga raha, that you can't even show your face anymore to your Samaj. So that's a Samajic death.
So Saririk death, Sarir is the body.
Yeah.
So everybody suffers this Saririk death. It happens. Bodhik, Buddh, mental, the ability to think.
Yeah.
Now there are some people, unfortunately, because of their karma, whatever, who can suffer mentally. You might say they're mentally unstable. And whilst they're physically alive, their doctors might label them as dead mentally. Yeah, from a mental state point of view. So much point in some countries, somebody might be of an unstable mind and people run away or joke at them and they're afraid of them. So that's another type of death.
Yeah. The next type of death is Rajnitik. That means political. Yeah, so what often political commentators will say about politicians, so that everybody suffers an inglorious death in politics. At some point, every politician, they're going to lose. Yeah. So we were joking about Theresa May. Now Theresa May is on the brink of losing her job as Prime Minister. So in a political sense, she's about to suffer what you'd call a political death. And there's no coming back from that. So this is just another example of a type of death.
Okay, and the last one, I think, which is the one I think Maskeen Kaur was talking about, is a dharmic death. A death of your spirituality, a death of your conscience. Deciding between what's right and wrong. And even when you know, you do the wrong thing because of all the wrong reasons.
So we'll just put those up as little circles.
Multiple choice question.
Yeah. There's only one right answer on this one, unfortunately.
So which of these deaths is real death? Hands up. More hands. Who are we going to have? Jolting. Everybody around you knows.
No, spiritual.
Spiritual death. Is he right? Who agrees with Jolting about spiritual death? Who doesn't agree with him? Come to Jolting. Which one do you reckon?
Physical death?
You think physical death? Okay. Or anybody? Any other takers? Mental? Okay. According to Barney, real death is spiritual death. Because spiritual death happens sabna jiyan ka ek data so main. And when we forget Vaheguru, we forget God, that's when Maharaj says we're dead. Akhan jiva. And again, Akhan jiva. When I chant the name of Vaheguru, I am alive.
When we were talking about Japji Sahib previously, in a previous body, we were making this connection between remembering and being one with somebody. So when something or somebody is not in our conscious mind, we forget. Our relationship, our BR, diminishes, reduces. In some cases becomes zero. That's why Visabna, for us, is a type of death.
Okay, so, I mean, we've only gone up to the Rahat up there. Arkan Oka Sabja now. And it can be difficult in this Kaljug world to know Japana, yeah? But we have to do it, yeah? Satya Naam Ki Lage Pook. We must have that hunger for the true name, yeah? And what happens, yeah? What the book do, yeah? So if we can take the pain to have name, now we'll be better off, yeah? So kyo visre meri maan. That's what Guru Nanak Dev Ji said. How can I forget Vaheguru? Yeah? Because he's the Satya Sahib. In the last body, remember a couple of bodies ago we said, yeah, we said who's the Satya Sahib, who's the Satya Malk, and it's Vaheguru. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just worth just going back to the beginning of that, because I think we just need to just pause on that thought. Akhan jiva visre mar jao. Okay, because I think that is so important that, you know, if we take one thing away today, if we take this one thought away with us today, I think we've all achieved something. Yeah, Akhan jiva visre mar jao. That your true death happens, Japa Visarjan there, when we forget. I'm only truly alive when I remember Vaheguru. That is the essence of this teaching here.
Okay. And further in Bani, Maharaj gives many examples of this, yeah? Marnan Bisarang Gobind. When we forget Gobind, we Bisar Gobind, we suffer Marnang, death, yeah? Jivanang Har Naam Tyavna. Only when we Tya or worship the name or meditate on Vaheguru's name, that's when we're alive. All other times, we're not alive. So, want to break soon?
Yeah, probably a good place to break that.
Do you want to break now?
No,
We'll do this one.
Yeah, it's a good time to break.
Okay, so how far have we got? Where's this person at now?
So it's got its long life, it's got its reputation.
Probably like what he thinks the best
Yeah.
practice.
So what's the sum on the board?
4
jug times 10, 40 jug, plus known in the 9 continents, plus somebody's going to do an equation for this.
There's a positive integer and there's lots of zeros at the end of it.
And every 7 sides with you, you have great fame, reputation, people everywhere praise you. But
There's always a but.
there's always a but. Because Maharaj wants us to think. That's why there's always a but. Maharaj poses questions. That's why Japji Sahib is a dialogue. It's a dialogue between Guru Nanak Sahib Ji and the Siddhs, but it's a dialogue between Guru Nanak Dev Ji and mankind to get humans to think. Yeah? So, we've already probably answered. Why does man continue to fear death? Don't answer it yet.
Hold that thought.
Hold that thought. Why do the bugs not fear death? Hold that thought.
And how is that state obtained?
How is that
Somebody please
state
put their hand up
obtained?
so I can say that to them as well.
Somebody put their hand up just for that one.
Oh,
Hold that
that
thought. Yeah. Okay, so we'll take a break. You know what? Think about these questions while you're having a break. Yeah. Why does man continue to fear death? Why do the bugs not fear death? And how is that state obtained? Quick break. 5 minutes. I'll just shoot you because we've still got a shot to do. There's a shot at the end we'll listen to, yeah? Hello.
189. Come on, mate. Let's go. We played it once.
Okay. Because of your great ponderance over the break, because somebody probably saw the slide, and the answer is? Okay. A couple of things, yeah? Why does man continue to fear death?
So, often, lack of fulfillment in life is the reason why you want a long life. You feel that you haven't seen enough, eaten enough, drunk enough, got enough money, enjoyed enough, so you're unfulfilled, basically. So what you think you wanted in life, you've still not achieved, regardless of whether you're 80, 100, whatever your age is. And hence the reason why you want even more life. So you're unfulfilled is the answer to that first question.
So man remains unfulfilled in all of those things. So man came here to do something, and he's been spending all his time filling his life with the wrong things.
And part of the reason why man remains unfulfilled is often man doesn't even know what the objective of their life was. So if you don't even know what the question is, how are you going to answer it?
Yeah, so in essence you could say man has failed to reach his destination, his goal. Yeah? In Punjabi we say he's not reached his manzil. Yeah? Destination, his goal. So the bugs instead don't fear death. Now, so the same question applies. Why do the bugs not fear death? And how do we know the bugs don't fear death? Do you carry on and tell you? Okay. Before we answer that question, we're also going to do the other bit as well. So in the part, Jetis, all together, Jetis, and again, Jetis. Okay, another ki hundi? Somebody else. Hanji. Grace. How do you know? Did you read the glossary? Good. Anybody else read the glossary?
And
You read the glossary?
kindness, yeah.
Kindness. Four. M word. Collect kindness. Another word for kindness with M. Merciful, yeah. All these things, bakshish, kindness, grace, nadar, yeah. Actually, the word nadar means to look.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the answer to this is nadar.
The answer to the question, the second question is why do bugs not fear death? Is linked to the first question really, because what they have is what people desire, fulfillment. They are already fulfilled. So once somebody's fulfilled, or where a bug is now fulfilled, in a physical sense, they don't really bother whether they're alive physically or not. As long as spiritually they're alive, that's all they care about. And that's the answer to the second question, that they are fulfilled.
So, when we do Japji Sahib, we'll come across nadar. So, we heard nadar in a previous body. Yeah? Karmi ave kapda. All together, karmi ave. So, what's this kapda we've got? What does Mala refer to as kapda? Did that mean my kurta pajama? Did that mean your tracksuit? Hanji. Body. Karmi ave kapda. So we just heard a presentation at the beginning about karm. So, karmi ave kapda. How did we get this kapda? Because of?
Apne chunge karma. So you got the outer layer because of your chunge karma.
So we've got the body to be able to achieve what we came here to achieve. So the reason why man continues to fear death is because he hasn't achieved. But the bugs have achieved. What have they achieved? Karmi ave kapda, nadri, What did they reach? Mork means, on the glossary, number 2. Mork. Eating Sahib. Everybody's now scrambling for their Mork, Mukti, Hanji. Well done, Halayako. Did you look it up or did you just know? Just say you knew. Okay, you knew.
Good notes.
Good notes. Yeah. So, karmi aave kapda ta mil gaya. We got this body, but who has had this favourable glance of grace? On whom has the grace fallen? The grace has fallen on the Bhagts. Asadiva Pauri. Nadar kare je apni ta nadri Satguru paya. Without the mercy or the grace, yeah, you don't find the Guru. Eho jio bote janm parme. So what do? They wander around birth after birth. But some are fortunate. They meet the Satguru and they listen to the Shabd. The Satguru Shabd Sunaya. And Satguru Deva Data ko nahi. Data. Remember Data, we're going to come back to Data. There is no greater giver than Vaheguru. Yeah? Satguru Deva Data ko nahi. Sab sunyo lok sabaya. Yeah? Everybody should hear and know that. And what happens when you meet Satguru? Satguru mile Satya paya. We talked about Satyar and Udayar. Jine vicho aap gavaya. What have the Bhagts done that the other people haven't done? They've lost their selves from themselves. They see themselves no different to Vaheguru. They don't see the things in the world like mortals see in this world. Yeah? Satya Bhajaya. So the Bhagts have fulfilled what they came to do. What Kabir ji says, altogether, Kabir, Mere man anand. Marne hete paye purn parmana. So Kabir ji says, Kabir, jis marne te jag dare. Dar means, what have we been talking about today? Fear. Why does man fear? Yeah? Kabir jis marne te jag dare mere man anand. Kabir ji says, in my mind, this death that everybody else is running scared of gives me anand, gives me bliss. Why? Marne hi te paye purna parmanand. That by this sort of death, where you lose yourself to Vaheguru, you obtain true bliss. So Kabir Sahib is saying, my journey is complete. Mainu hun jeen di lod hi nahi. Yeah? You know, it's like saying you come back from, say if you landed at Heathrow Airport, you got back home to Wolverhampton, and then you think, I'll drive around another 2 hours. Ki further? You've reached home. And in the same way, what Kabir ji is saying is, I don't need to live anymore. I have fulfilled the purpose of this life. And other people remain scared of death. And other people say, and the end result is, their life finishes, and God says, if that's what you want, fair janma lala. But remember, jede karma banaya, they're going to go with you. So even if you don't reach salvation in this life, karma change banaiye is the Upadesh. Guru Gobind Ji said, I don't fear death. Why? What's this said? Altogether, aap haath de maran kaal ka. Guru Gobind Ji said, I'm a soldier. My sayings are soldiers. We live with death all the time. But remove from us, but we're saints as well, remove from within us that moment that everybody else fears, the moment of death. Every day, once in the morning, and once again in our eras, yeah? And we say, Maran kaal ka tras never. Remove that fear of death or the time of death. We did a program of Baba Deep Singh Ji. Bhagts of yesteryear, Bhagts of this era. What do they say? We do not fear death. What was the question? Which is the real death? Physical death? Mental death? Political death? The answer was? What did Baba Janel Singh say to us? Physical death, I do not fear. I remember these words with my own ears. I'm not making them up. Yeah? They said, I do not fear physical death. But the moment my conscience is dead, consider me dead. Yeah? People said to them, there's thousands of troops outside, do you not fear death? And he said, no. Why? Because he'd fulfilled the reason for his being in this life, which was to come, Naam Japana, and make other people jump and make them travel a good life. And at that particular point they said, I don't need Jivan, but I help other people out. So, Baba Deep Singh is, again, when Harmandir Sahib is attacked by Abdali, Baba Deep Singh says, okay, I'm going to leave Batinda, I'm going to march to Amritsar, and I'm going to free Darbar Sahib, if it even costs my life. And he knew it would cost his life. So we've done that program before. Okay, who does economics A level and has done it? I look in that corner. Navjot's not here. The value of capital. And that doesn't mean London. What's capital? Who wants to do economics? Capital ki hunda? Go on then, mush. You don't know? Sahib, you have done economics. Hanji?
It's like the machinery and like produce you actually use to build goods and things.
So you make something from capital. Okay? Another thing called capital is you invest capital. So if you've got £10,000 spare, if you do, let me know. What would you do with £10,000 spare?
Don't spend it.
If you weren't going to spend it,
Please don't spend it.
don't spend it. The answer is not spend it. What would you do with it?
The I word.
Hanji?
Make it pride. Have pride in it.
Yeah? You would invest it, yeah?
Good
I
answer.
thought you would say that with your dad being in finance. Invest it and make it grow. You make more. So if you had £10,000 and if interest rates were 1%, yeah, you'd make more money on it. So 5%, you'd be much happier. If they're 7 or 8%, which they used to be once upon a
I'd
time,
be delighted.
you'd be delighted. Then the value of capital. Now Maharaji says, long life, or life itself is a capital. Invest life. Where do you invest life? Down the pub?
So it's that same £10,000. If I just dig a little hole in my garden and buried it, have I made the best use of that capital? In the same way, our breath, that is our capital. That is what we've been given. Maharaj tells us to use that capital, that our swasani punji, the capital of our breath, to the best possible use that we can. In Guru Nanak Dev Ji's eyes, that doesn't mean tusi apna swas char lene hai, as the yogis used to do. That you take your breath in, hold it for years and years and years and years, decades in some cases. That is not the best investment. The capital of our breath, in the same way as you should invest your £10,000 in the best way, the very breath that we've got inside us, we have to invest that in the best way as well.
Yeah, so Naam Japana is our investment. That takes us to the same place where the bugs are. So we have to do what they do. They show us the way.
I'm seriously worried about the next slide.
I'm worried about my next slide. Okay. Jetis nadana ave ta vatana puche. Next line. All together. Kita andar keet kar dosi dostre.
Those are the slightly delicate disposition. Look away from the slide if you don't.
I've made a slide. You don't have to fear it. It's a bit like the death slide. It's there to make a point. Kita andar keet kar dosi dostre. What's a keet? What's a keeda?
Insect.
Hanji?
Insect.
What sort of insect? What? Hanji? Worm. Keet, worm. When I like gardening, so what I do is I make my own compost. How do I make my own compost? I get all my waste from my food, all that sort of stuff, from my onion peelings and things like that. And I take my green grass when I cut it, and I put it into a compost bin, and then I throw away the carbon type of things, you know, the inside of toilet rolls thing. You rip them all up, you put them in. And at the end of the gardening season, I get this gold, black gold it's called. Mitti. Beautiful. And when I go there in the morning, there's millions of worms in there. Come and have a look at my garden. True. Am I telling the truth? Do see them would I sit there and you have to do it myself? So, anyway, the reality is that worms live in the soil, they eat the soil. But there's different types of worms, yeah? Come to you, what's your junni made of? Do you know? We've got a nice junni made of silk. You just made from silk? Silk. Who makes silk? Silkworms. Good kid knows. We got some. I've got the other worms, you've got the silkworms. No. Okay, silkworms. But silkworms are also worms. So there's a hierarchy in worms. The silkworms over here. And what's the worst type of worm? Worse than my worms that live in my soil, there's worse ones than that.
Look away.
One of like, you know, some beetles as well. You said insects. Hanji, Metabkos knows this. Dung beetles. Now, without being rude, dung beetles. Yeah? Dung beetles. And there's some worms that live in poo. Yeah? And Maharaj is now making a serious point, and they say, Kita under Kitka dosi dostare. You know, when we talked about karma, so we won't say about other people, but some people say about some people, because they're making bad karma. He's a worm. That person's a worm. He's low down life worm. Can they then? We don't say it because we're making good karma. But people call people worms. It's a Gita. And Maharaj is saying at this point, you know, these people, you know, the how much? 4 jug times 10, fame in the 9 continents, everybody says bale bale bale. Yeah? But Maharaj says, Jetis nadarna avai. If they have not got Maharaj's blessing, yeah, they are Kita under Kirkar dosi dostare. They're that worm over there. The worm over here says to that worm, you're rubbish, man. You live in it, you eat it, you were born in it, and you're going to die in it. That's really low life, isn't it? Yeah? So Maharaj makes this point. Without Maharaj, Vahiguru's nadar, yeah? Jetis nadarna avaita bhatna puchake. What dose will they get? What accusation will be made? They will be held in contempt. So if you take this to human level now, you would say, you're a sinner of the lowest type. Even within the hierarchy of sinners, there's the worst ones. But Maharaj uses this example, so I had to do the slide to make the point.
You loved it as well.
It took me ages to find. But anyway, the point is that Maharaj in Nadar to Bagair, we are, or not we are, but people are at that level. Nadar of Vaheguru is all important. So, Jetis Natarna Ave Tavatana Pucheke, Kita under Kirka Dosi Dostare. Last line? It's not the last line. Okay. Now, just checking. Okay. Before we come on to that. Okay. So, what does that? Then you're going to ask questions.
Yeah, okay. So, Vaheguru is the ultimate giver. Now, Vaheguru is not only a giver in the sense that Vaheguru gives to those that ask for it, Vaheguru gives even those that don't ask for it. So those that at the sort of bottom end of the spectrum, you know, those at the sort of dung end of the dung beetle spectrum of worms, Vaheguru blesses them with gun. Why? Because as soon as those people or entities repent, Vaheguru says that that door is actually open for you now. Also, those ones that already have virtues, Vaheguru gives more gun to. So there is no end to this goodness. And we say that Vaheguru is the ultimate giver, and that's one of the reasons that Vaheguru gives. To those that have nothing, Vaheguru gives. Those that previously merited nothing, if they repent, Waheguru gives. Those that have plenty, Waheguru gives even more. But the essence of it is that you knock on that door, you say, Waheguru minu chahida hai, or help me, save me. You take that one qadam, that one first step to Waheguru.
Okay, so Waheguru is the true giver. Now people aren't givers, yeah? So, we've asked this question before, so you know the answer. What does Maharaj give us? What has Maharaj given us? Anji, start of a 10. Hat, pair, what else? Akhan, nak. We take these for granted. We use them every day. I know these are complex organs. Yeah, some of you are going like to do biology and stuff like that at university, and you say, how does the body work? We got this for free. Who paid for their body? Who paid for their heart? Who paid for their brain? Who paid for their toes? None of you. Because Maharaj gave it as a dart. A dart is something that is given without the expectation of having something in return. You do your presentation. Did I give you £10 for it? No. Thank you for that dart. A dart. Maharaj gives us a dart. He's given us breath. He gives us everything. He's given us our mothers and fathers on this Mother's Day. He's given us mothers. He's given us fathers. He's given us brothers and sisters. He gives us everything. Yeah? All our intelligence. And God gives these. And some people, we talked about in the last Pauri, why do some people have more than others? Some people's chori was bigger than somebody else's. And by that means they didn't live a bigger chori. Their karma were better. Their karma were good. So they got more. Yeah? And some people's chori is small, they never get any dart. Yeah? And Juga Jugantar Khai Khai. Yeah? Maharaj keeps giving and people become tired. By that we mean that life comes to an end. But Maharaj, these gon we talked about, last time we talked about kinne gon hai, how much gon does Waheguru have? He gives and he keeps giving. Nanak, we have to pause at Nanak nirgun gun kare. Those that without any gon, he gives gon. Yeah? And the ones that already have got gon, he gives them more gon. And they become peace. Yeah? And there's no one able to give gon like God gives gon. And when does Maharaj give us these things? Yeah? Gone too far? Yeah. Anumangya. Without even asking, Anumangya Dan Devana. We don't even have to ask. So, before we summarise that body, yeah, we've got one more to do. So we just go back to the part, because we haven't finished the last line. Okay, so we have got as far as, we've done the Changa na Rakhai ke, Jasakira Jagle, Jet Sanadana Avai, as it calls up here. And we've done the Kita and the Kitka, Dosi Dostare. So, Maharaj says, Nanak, Nirgun Gun Kare, Gunavantya Gunade. The final line. What does the last line say altogether? Okay. What does Sujai mean? Hanji.
Imagine.
Imagine. Yeah. So it's a bit like, what was Bujai? What's the other one that sounds like it with a baba? Baba. Bujai? Hanji. Yeah, you could ask. Yeah, you got your hand up. Hanji? Understand. See? Buj, Suj. Buj and Suj. We have to remember these words. They sound similar, yeah? Yeah? Sujai. Teha koi Sujai. Maharaj says, I've looked across the whole world, the whole universe. There is no data. Nobody gives gun in the way that you give gun. Humans might try and give gun, but they want something in return. So if your mum and dads go to work, their employer will pay them. You have to slog for a whole month before they pay you that money. And then other people will say, do this, but it costs you something in time or effort. Yeah? But Maharaj gives us everything without us even asking. So Mala says, Deha koi na sujjai. I cannot imagine anybody who can do what Vaheguru does. And that is, that you give gone. And there is nobody at all. Is there anybody that gives gone to God? Does anybody give virtues to God? That God is lacking some virtues and then somebody can give them to God? Hega koi? No. That's why we say, Deha koi na sujjai, je tis kun koi kare. So, in summary, body 7. Who's going to summarise body 7 for us next month? You did, Carl. We'll find something else to talk about next time. We'll come back. So all together, before we finish the body, just do the part first. Yeah. Okay. All together, let's do the part of the 7th body. Now that we have more understanding of the meanings, because we can rush through the body. But there's lots of meaning, just like the Chirmi body, there was so much behind it, and even then we leave things on the table. And you guys have to come and tell us about God. So I'm sure we missed something this time that somebody's going to bring back to us next time. So let's do the part of the Satmi body. Je Jugachare Arja Orit Sumni Hoy Nama Kanda Vich Janiye Nad Chala Sab Koi Changa Naur Khai Ke Chasi Jagle Jetis Nadana Avai Tavatna Puchake Kita Antar Kitka Dosi Dostare Nanak Gun Gun Kare Gunantya Gunte Deha Koi Na Sujjai Jetis Gun Koi Kare. Okay, so that was the body, we've done the part. So let's just summarise that body in terms of a synopsis. And what we're going to try and do is backward engineer. We have to backward engineer. Now that's the one I said. I'll show you some changes to it. We'll have to do synopsis for the other 6 boarding before this. Okay. So this is the sort of najor, if you like, of the final body, of this body.
So we started off by saying that mankind has a desire to live forever. Yeah. We've also said that a long life, in its own right, is of no real consequence. Certainly without Waheguru's nadar, grace, or graceful glance, that long life is completely meaningless. Okay. A life devoted to Nam is a subtle life, is one that's actually fulfilled, is one that has meaning. Next bit.
Yeah. So it says, man's biggest desire is for life and to live long. But what comes with this is the opposite side of the coin. The more man desires life, the more man fears death. But death is a reality. Yeah? And Bani tells us, and the Bhagavad told us, that when we remember Vaheguru, Akhan Jima Visane Marjaun, that we're actually alive when we remember Vaheguru. When we forget, we might have a pulse, we might be breathing, we might be moving, but spiritually we are dead. And of all the deaths, which is the real death, is the spiritual death. So the next point, we said that Vaheguru is the true giver, the real data. Yeah? And as a data, what does he give us? Gone. Virtues. We talked about these virtues in the last body, and we'll continue to probably reflect on all the virtues that God gives. And that's why saintly people, the Bhagats, have virtues. They have good virtues. Why? Because they've achieved merging with Vaheguru, and they get more and more gone to the point that they become Vaheguru. Yeah? So he blesses everybody with virtues, but he not only blesses good people with virtues, he will even look at those people that repent, that have no gun already. If they do something that merits it, they'll get a small gun, a starting point. So we heard at the beginning, because of your karma, you might have done something better. The quiver, the arrows, your quiver gets bigger. That can either be a good one or a bad one. And it's up to us what we do.
So we've said that Waheguru is the great giver. And the last point is that in this way, the way that Waheguru distributes his virtues, Those that have nothing, Waheguru gives. Those that have already some, Waheguru gives even more to. And the uniqueness of Waheguru is this, that there is no other one that is like Waheguru. No one can measure up to the Daat that Waheguru is. And in this way, no one can measure to Waheguru's goodness.
Okay, so hopefully that's helped you a little bit with the understanding of body 7. Next time we'll do body 8 and 9. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to stretch to 10 and 11, so it might be 8 and 9. Yeah. So if you want to do any pre-work, the next 4 body, 2 especially, but might be 4. Next class is the 28th of April.
Yeah. Before then, the Nagar Kirtan, Sachin Street Nagar Kirtan is on the 14th. So if you're able to join, it'd be good to see you. But then the 28th, 2 weeks after that, is the next Sikha class. As ever, if there are other children that you know that could benefit from coming along, please do invite them. There you go.
Is that it?
No? That's hope not.
Don't go away.
And then make that 8 and 9. Wrong.
Oh, you don't pressure me. Antigua?
Your dad's not good under pressure, is he?
I told you. Chalo, on ठीक है ना? What day? 28th of April. Is that 4 weeks' time?
I should have just held this up, shouldn't I? I've been quicker.
Here's one I made earlier. Yeah. Your numbers aren't the same size, is it? Okay, so 4 weeks' time, we'll do the next body. What we're going to finish off today then is a shabd, and the shabd is Kirat Prati Gau Mili Rasna. So we talked about just Kirat Jagle. Yeah? Mankind, there's no point in mankind looking for their own just Kirat. Yeah? The only real Kirat is the Kirat of Vaheguru, the praise of Vaheguru. Yeah? So we'll listen to the shabd. There's other elements of this that sitting in the Sangat is where you find the real answers to life. Yeah? Not elsewhere. So we'll listen to the shabd. I think there's a couple of Parman in there. And then we'll break. I think somebody's bought Mr. Singh's pizzas as well, so don't go away without any of them. Yeah. So we'll listen to the shabd. I'll find it on here, and then we'll do Fateh, and then we'll finish at that point. But let's listen to the shabd and follow it on the screen. What dog is it in? Bageshri.
Like,
Dani sani ni da magare sa pare brahme. Dani sani da sani da ma pa da ma ga sa pare brahme. Jab pai dayale pare brahme jab ga ma da ma ga ma ga re sa ga ma da sani da ni da ma ga re sa dani sa ga re sa ni da ma pa da ma ga sa ga ma da ni sa ma ga re sa ga ma da ni sa ma ga re sa ga ma da ni sa pare brahme jab pai dayale pare brahme jab pai dayale kaho nanak to chute jaye kaho nanak to chute jaye तीरथ प्रभु की गौर में रसना तीरथ प्रभु की गौर में रसना अनेक मारे घरे बंधन संतन अनेक मारे घरे बंधन संतन मोह चरण गोविंद जी रसना तीरथ प्रभु की गौर में रसना तीरथ प्रभु की तीरथ प्रभु की गौर में रसना वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की
Bole Sonihal. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. If you were following the alt on the screen, you'll see that lots of the themes that we've talked about this afternoon reappeared in that shabd as well. And the essence of that is that with Waheguru's nadar, with Waheguru's graceful nadar, that we truly become fulfilled. We truly become what we should become. That is the objective of our life.
Okay, so just to remind everybody, the next class is on the 28th of April, 4 weeks' time. Does anybody want to do a shabd presentation? Kavta? Diva? Anything else? No takers? Are you volunteering somebody for last week? Oh, was that good kid? And his brother? He got another thing. What are they going to do? Your dad's here. He'll sort you out.
And if anybody hasn't got the latest glossary, I don't know, did you guys have it last time? Anybody else wants a glossary? Please continue to learn the words, because one of these days we're going to do a spot check.
A spot check test. Yeah. Like now. Should I try one now? Now, but think last time you gave them out, they started to know the answer straight away. Ve parwa. See, wow is right. Hanji. Carefree. Vigse.
Joyful.
Joyful. One on the other side. Vadianga.
Greatness.
Greatness. Nidaan.
Treasure.
Now, how come you didn't know more? Because Mukti earlier on.
They'll just be shy.
Because you got the paper now, isn't it? ठीक है चलो okay we'll do Fateh Langar Shak next month. Let's get together again. Nagar Kirtan we said on the 14th. Yeah whatever you're going to do it good. Yeah, and then we'll find some volunteers while you're eating. I'm sure somebody will get some courage in that time. Yeah, God ke Fateh bhai Waheguru ji ka khalsa Waheguru ji.
What do you think of me?
We're back on Friday.
Oh, no, my house is funny.
If we're feeling well.